The stars were silent. They had always been silent. Cold, ancient, and distant, they burned above the fleet of human ships moving slowly through the dark sea of space. Thousands of metal giants drifted forward, their engines glowing faintly, like embers hidden under ash. They made no sound. They carried no music of life. Only the deep hum of machinery echoed within their walls, and the heavy breathing of soldiers filled the air. Humanity had come far. Too far, some whispered. Beyond the borders of their colonies, beyond the peace they once dreamed of, beyond the limits of mercy. They were now heading toward the alien homeworld, a place most humans had only heard of in stories. A place many had been taught to fear. A place their leaders had named as the enemy of mankind. Inside the flagship Resolute, the largest ship in the fleet, silence pressed on every heart. Rows of soldiers sat in their armored suits, helmets held in their hands. Their faces were pale, not from lack of courage, but from the weight of uncertainty. They had trained for this day. They had been told this was justice. They had been told this was survival. And yet, as the alien sun rose in the distance, each heart whispered the same question. Why are we here? Captain Elias Varon stood at the command deck, staring at the alien world ahead. It floated in the black like a jewel, an ocean world with glowing seas that shimmered in colors never seen on Earth. Twin suns bathed it in silver and gold light, and strange storm clouds drifted across its horizon. For a moment, Elias almost forgot he was looking at the home of an enemy. It looked alive. It looked beautiful. Status of the fleet. His voice broke the silence. Admiral reports all ships are in formation, replied a young officer. Weapons charged. Awaiting command. The words felt heavy. The humans had crossed the void of space not to explore, not to discover, but to destroy. The order would come soon. It always did. Deep within the lower decks, soldiers whispered among themselves. Some spoke of revenge, families lost in past wars, cities burned in alien raids. Others spoke of fear, rumors of alien technology, stories of ships that vanished without trace. But most said nothing at all. They sat, checking weapons, holding trinkets from home, staring at the steel floor as if answers were hidden there. One soldier, Private Lien Kaur, closed his eyes and thought of Earth. The green fields. The sound of rivers. The laughter of his sister. He wondered if she would ever know what he was doing here. He wondered if she would believe the stories their leaders told, or if she would ask the same question that haunted him. Are we the heroes, or the invaders? As the fleet drew closer, strange signals began to whisper through the void. Unfamiliar waves, flickering like ghost voices. The comms officers frowned, trying to decode them, but the language was unreadable. Some signals sounded like songs. Others sounded like cries. None of them sounded like war. Alien transmissions detected, one officer reported. Block them. The admiral's voice cut through. No distractions. No hesitation. And just like that, the ghostly voices were silenced. The fleet moved forward, blind to the words they had refused to hear. In the observation deck, a group of officers gathered by the glass wall, watching the alien world grow larger. It was unlike anything they had ever seen. Oceans glowed with light, as if the very water was alive. Great structures rose along the coasts, towering like mountains, but curved and shaped as if grown instead of built. Alien cities, breathing with strange energy. Beautiful, one officer whispered before catching himself. No one was supposed to call the enemy's world beautiful. The admiral's voice filled every ship. This is the day humanity claims its place among the stars. No more fear. No more hiding. We strike first and we strike hard. This world will never threaten Earth again. Stand ready. His words were strong, but in their strength, there was something else. A shadow of desperation. A shadow that made the soldiers wonder, was this truly about defense, or something more? The tension grew heavier with every passing minute. The fleet moved in silence, like a predator in the night. But deep inside the hearts of the soldiers, silence was breaking. Thoughts screamed louder than orders. Doubts whispered louder than courage. What if the aliens were not preparing for war? What if this attack was built on lies? Captain Elias kept his eyes fixed on the alien planet. His hands clenched behind his back. His jaw tightened. He remembered the day Earth's leaders had gathered the fleet. He remembered their words, "The aliens will strike first. We must destroy them before they destroy us." But no proof had ever been shown. Only fear. Only warnings. Only silence where truth should have been. "Sir," said the communications officer, hesitating. "There's something else. A pattern in the alien signals. It almost sounds like—" "Like what?" Elias turned sharply. "Like a warning." The bridge grew quiet. No one dared to breathe. A warning. But warning of what? Before anyone could ask, the ship trembled slightly. Not from weapons, not from impact, but from something else. The sensors lit up, detecting movements around the alien planet. Shapes were rising from the oceans. Giant shadows cutting through the atmosphere. Living ships, vast creatures made of metal and flesh, wings glowing with energy. "They knew we were coming," Elias whispered. On every screen, the alien fleet emerged, not built in steel like humanity's, but grown like living storms. Their shapes twisted and moved as if alive, pulsing with strange light. For a long moment, no one spoke. Humanity had prepared for battle, but they had not prepared for this. "Admiral?" Elias asked, his voice tight. The Admiral's reply was sharp, cold. "All ships prepare for engagement. Today we decide the future of our species. Fire on my mark." The soldiers strapped into their seats. The gunners locked their weapons. The engines roared louder. Humanity had arrived at the alien homeworld, and the silence of space was about to break. Private Lien gripped his rifle, his heart hammering. He thought again of his sister's laughter. He thought of Earth. And he wondered, when history told this story, would they call it the day humanity was brave? Or the day humanity became the monster? The fleet slowed. The alien world glowed beneath them. The alien ships moved above them. For one brief moment, time seemed frozen, caught between peace and war. Then, as if the universe itself was holding its breath, the Admiral raised his hand. And in that silent second, no one knew. The aliens were already waiting for them. The silence shattered. The Admiral's hand dropped, and in a single instant, the human fleet unleashed its fury. Thousands of cannons, railguns, and plasma beams fired at once. The darkness of space lit up like a storm of burning suns. Beams of light cut across the alien skies, striking the surface of the planet below. Explosions bloomed across the oceans and coastlines, red fire rising into the atmosphere. The attack had begun. On board the flagship Resolute, the deck shook with the force of its own weapons. Soldiers and officers braced themselves against the tremors. Outside the observation windows, streaks of fire carved through the sky. The alien homeworld was no longer silent, it screamed with light and destruction. Private Lien Kor clutched the railing, eyes wide as he watched entire alien cities burst into flame. Towers of shimmering material crumbled like glass. Glowing oceans boiled with smoke. The sight was both terrible and beautiful, like watching the birth of a star, or the death of a world. Some soldiers cheered. Some shouted with rage, releasing their fear into cries of victory. But others were quiet. Their faces pale. Their hearts heavy. The reality of war was not the same as the promise of it. It was uglier, heavier, and crueler. "Multiple targets destroyed," one officer reported. "Shields holding. Minimal damage from counterfire." For a brief moment, it looked as if humanity's attack would be unstoppable. But then the alien world answered. From the oceans rose colossal structures, pillars of light and metal, taller than mountains, older than anything humans had ever seen. They pulsed with energy, and then with one unified roar, they released their power. Beams of pure light erupted upward, striking the human fleet. Ships trembled. Hulls cracked. One vessel, the Harbinger, was torn apart in a single blast, breaking into fragments that tumbled through space. "Enemy planetary defenses active," shouted the sensor officer. "Shields failing on multiple ships." The calm rhythm of human fire turned into chaos. Explosions burst across the fleet as alien weapons pierced through human shields. Energy waves rippled through the void, knocking ships off course. The alien world was not defenseless, it was alive with rage. And then came the alien fleet. They rose from the clouds like storms given form. Living ships, twisted and glowing, wings spread wide as if cut from the fabric of the sky itself. Their movements were not mechanical, they swam, glided, twisted, like predators in the ocean. Each ship pulsed with light, and when they fired, their weapons did not sound like machines. They sounded like thunder. The first wave struck the human fleet with shocking precision. Plasma bolts ripped through the darkness, colliding with battleships and shredding them apart. Human cruisers spun out of formation, their engines torn to pieces. The Valor's edge was hit broadside, its hull splitting open like paper. Screams filled the comm channels as soldiers called for rescue. "Maintain formation," the admiral's voice roared. "We do not falter. Return fire." The humans fired back with everything they had. Railguns launched steel slugs that tore through alien wings. Plasma beams burned holes into glowing hulls. One alien ship burst into flame, twisting and screaming like a dying creature. Another was shattered completely, fragments raining down into the planet's atmosphere. The sky became fire. Explosions painted the darkness red and gold. Trails of debris burned as they fell toward the alien oceans. Broken pieces of ships, both human and alien, rained down like meteors, lighting up the night. It was a storm of destruction, a war written in fire across the sky. Inside Resolute, Captain Elias Varon gave orders with a steady voice, but his eyes betrayed him. He watched the chaos with a heavy heart. The cost was already higher than anyone had admitted. Humanity had struck first, but the enemy was far stronger than they had been told. "Sir, we're being flanked," shouted an officer. "Alien ships moving behind our formation. Redirect destroyers. Cut them off. Do not let them break the line," Elias commanded. Private Lien felt the deck shudder beneath him as the ship twisted into evasive maneuvers. He heard the cries over the comms, soldiers begging for help, officers screaming orders, engineers reporting fires, breaches, deaths. War was no longer a distant dream of glory. It was real. It was screaming all around him. The aliens fought not like machines, but like something alive. Their ships darted and weaved with strange grace, dodging human fire. When destroyed, some split apart into smaller forms, continuing to attack like swarms of insects. Others rammed human vessels directly, their wings piercing metal like knives. One soldier whispered in fear, "How do we fight this? How do we fight a world that breathes war?" And for the first time, the question spread like fire in the hearts of many. The admiral gave no space for doubt. "Push forward. Humanity does not retreat. This world will fall." But even his voice could not silence the growing truth. Humanity had come with fire and fury, expecting quick victory. Instead, they had awakened something ancient, something waiting, something powerful. Every blast, every explosion, every scream was a reminder that this would not be easy. Private Lien gripped his rifle tighter, though he knew it would mean little in the chaos of space. He thought of his sister again, and wondered if she would ever know that her brother's fleet was burning above a world she had never seen. The battle raged on, fire across the sky. The alien homeworld bled, but so did humanity. And in the smoke and screams, in the shattered light of war, one truth was clear. This war would not end quickly. This war would not end cleanly. This war would cost more than anyone had imagined. And as the Resolute pressed forward, its guns blazing, no one aboard knew. The worst was yet to come. The fires in orbit still burned, but humanity had already taken its next step. Dropships separated from the fleet, diving through the atmosphere of the alien world. Their hulls glowed red as they cut through the thick sky, engines screaming against gravity. Inside, soldiers gripped their weapons, armor sealed tight, eyes filled with fear and fire. Private Lien Kor sat with his squad, the vibration of the dropship rattling through his bones. Around him, men and women checked their rifles, whispered quick prayers, or stared silently at the floor. No one spoke of victory now. The sight of burning ships above had stolen that word from their lips. Now they spoke only in their hearts. Survive. Just survive. The hatch doors rattled as the dropship broke through the last layer of clouds. And then, for the first time, humanity saw the alien homeworld up close. It was alive. Forests of glowing trees stretched across the horizon, their leaves shimmering with light as if the stars had fallen into them. Rivers of liquid silver carved paths through the valleys. Mountains rose high, their peaks glowing faint blue, pulsing with energy. The ground itself seemed to breathe. It was not a dead world of steel and stone, it was a living paradise. "By the stars," whispered Sergeant Hale, his voice breaking through the comms. "They told us this place was a threat. Doesn't look like one to me." No one answered, because the beauty was undeniable. And yet, war had already scarred it. In the distance, smoke rose from the places struck by orbital fire. Alien structures, curved towers and crystal domes, lay shattered, glowing ruins scattered among the forests. Still, even in destruction, the planet's beauty resisted. The dropships landed with a roar, kicking up waves of glowing dust. Soldiers stormed out, rifles raised, forming lines. They expected ambushes. They expected resistance. But for several long minutes, there was only silence. Then the silence broke. From the glowing trees emerged creatures, tall, armored in natural plates, eyes burning with strange light. Alien warriors. Their weapons pulsed with energy, their movements sharp and graceful. With a roar that shook the ground, they charged. Gunfire erupted. The forest lit up with flashes of plasma and bullets. Human soldiers ducked behind glowing roots, firing into the charge. Alien energy bolts cut through armor, sending soldiers collapsing into the dirt. Explosions tore holes in the battlefield. The war that had burned the skies now bled into the ground. Private Lien fired blindly, heart pounding, breath ragged. He had trained for this, but nothing could prepare him for the speed of the enemy. One alien warrior leapt toward him, blade of light in hand. At the last moment, Sergeant Hale blasted it apart with a rifle burst, dragging Lien to his feet. "Stay alive, kid," Hale shouted, before diving back into the fight. The battle raged for hours. Humans pushed forward, inch by bloody inch, until the alien line broke. Warriors fell back into the glowing forests, leaving trails of light behind them. Exhausted, wounded, and shaken, the human soldiers regrouped. But as they pressed deeper, something strange happened. They found no weapons factories. No war machines. No great fortresses prepared for battle. Instead, they found villages, small clusters of curved buildings, gardens glowing with strange crops, children hiding in the ruins. Families. Civilians. Private Lien froze when he saw them. Alien children, eyes wide with fear, clutching their parents. They looked nothing like the monsters he had been told of. They looked like people. The squad stood in silence, weapons raised but unmoving. For the first time, they felt the weight of their orders press against their hearts. "What do we do?" one soldier whispered. The answer came not from their commander, but from the alien civilians themselves. They did not attack. They did not fight. They only held their children close and waited. Waiting for mercy. Or death. Sergeant Hale lowered his rifle. Slowly, one by one, others followed. The truth was bleeding through the lies. They were not liberators, they were destroyers. Then came the discovery that changed everything. Inside a shattered tower, Captain Elias and a team of soldiers uncovered a chamber filled with alien crystals. The walls glowed with moving images, like a living archive. At first, it looked like art, beautiful and strange. But as the images shifted, they told a story. Not of invasion. Not of war. But of defense. The aliens had never planned to strike Earth. They had been preparing to protect themselves from humanity. The images showed human ships approaching, human weapons firing, human leaders demanding surrender. The aliens had only ever answered with defense. And worse, the archive showed transmissions, human voices declaring conquest, orders to take the alien world for its resources. It was never about survival. It was about power. Captain Elias stared at the glowing walls, his heart heavy with the weight of betrayal. His orders had been lies. His soldiers had been sent not to save Earth, but to expand it, through fire and blood. Private Lien entered the chamber, his eyes wide as the truth shone before him. He felt his stomach twist, his chest tighten. Everything he had believed, every reason he had fought, cracked and shattered like glass. "We're not the heroes," he whispered. "We're the monsters." The chamber fell silent. No one argued. No one spoke. Because the truth was undeniable. Humanity had attacked, not to defend, but to conquer. Outside, the alien forests glowed softly, scarred but alive. Inside, the soldiers stood with heavy hearts, caught between duty and conscience. And in that moment, one question echoed louder than the war itself. What happens when an army learns that its greatest enemy is its own leaders? The answer was coming. And it would tear humanity apart. The alien archive still glowed, its images painting the chamber with shifting colors. Soldiers stood in silence, their weapons hanging limp in their hands. They had seen enough. The lies of their leaders had been burned into their eyes. Humanity had not come here to protect itself. It had come to conquer. Captain Elias Varen's face was pale, his jaw tight. He had led men and women into this war believing it was survival. Now he knew the truth. And yet, above him, the Admiral's voice still thundered across the comms. "Press forward. Secure the planet. No hesitation." The soldiers exchanged glances. Doubt had become a living thing in the room, pressing against their chests, whispering louder than orders. Sergeant Hale finally spoke, his voice low but steady. "Sir, we can't do this. They're not invaders. They're defending their home. If we keep fighting, we're the monsters." Elias wanted to argue, but the words caught in his throat. He thought of the alien children hiding in ruins. He thought of the archive, the truth carved into light. He thought of Earth's leaders, and the hollow promises they had made. Slowly, he lowered his head. "We follow orders," one soldier insisted. "If we disobey, we're traitors. Do you know what they'll do to us if we go back without victory?" Private Lien spoke then, his voice trembling but clear. "If victory means burning families alive, then maybe we shouldn't go back at all." The room fell silent again. Lien's words were heavy, and no one could escape them. Outside, the battle still raged. Alien defenses roared, human ships burned, fire streaked across the sky. But on the ground, a different battle had begun, one not of weapons, but of conscience. Then the unexpected happened. A sound filled the air, soft, melodic, unlike the roar of war. Soldiers turned, rifles raised, as alien figures approached the chamber. But these were not warriors. They carried no weapons. Instead, they held glowing crystals that pulsed gently, almost like hearts. Their leader stepped forward, tall and graceful, eyes glowing with sorrow rather than rage. The crystal shimmered, and then, to the soldiers' shock, a voice echoed in their minds. Not words they recognized, but feelings, pain, fear, hope. The aliens were speaking, not through sound, but through thought. "They're trying to communicate," whispered Hale, lowering his weapon. The alien leader stepped closer, lifting the crystal. The images that poured into the humans' minds were clear. Alien children running from burning homes, families hiding in the forests, warriors fighting not for conquest, but for survival. And then, an image of Earth's fleet, the moment it had crossed into alien skies, firing without warning. The truth was no longer hidden. It was alive, and it demanded to be seen. Some soldiers fell to their knees, tears in their eyes. Others shook their heads, clinging to orders, to duty, to the only truth they had left. The divide grew sharper, like a blade cutting through their ranks. "We can't ignore this," Lien said, his voice breaking. "We can't keep killing them. They're the enemy," another soldier shouted. "If we hesitate, they'll destroy us." "No," Elias finally said, his voice steady now. "If we keep obeying, we'll destroy ourselves." The words spread like fire. Soldiers began lowering their rifles. Others raised theirs higher, aimed not at aliens, but at their own comrades. The battlefield was no longer just humans against aliens. It was humans against themselves. Above, the admiral's orders grew harsher. "Push forward. Eradicate every stronghold. This planet is ours." His voice carried no doubt, no hesitation. But down below, his soldiers were breaking. The alien leader raised the crystal once more, and a final vision filled their minds. A great shadow, buried deep beneath the planet, a weapon older than both species. It pulsed with terrible power, locked beneath the oceans, waiting. If the war continued, it would awaken. Captain Elias staggered back, his blood running cold. A planetary weapon? By the stars! The aliens were not only defending their home, they were holding back something ancient, something catastrophic. The choice was no longer between victory and defeat. It was between survival and extinction. Elias looked at his soldiers, torn between duty and truth, between blind obedience and conscience. He knew the next choice would decide not just the battle, but the future of humanity itself. And then, as if the planet itself had heard their struggle, the ground shook. The oceans roared in the distance. The ancient weapon was stirring. The turning point had come. The ground shook with terrible force. From deep beneath the alien oceans, a low hum rose, vibrating through the soil, through the mountains, through the very bones of those who stood upon the world. Soldiers stumbled, dropships rattled, and the alien civilians cried out as waves of glowing water surged upward. The ancient weapon was waking. Captain Elias Varon stared into the distance, watching the horizon split with blinding light. A column of energy burst upward from the sea, piercing the sky, striking even the ships in orbit. The human fleet shuddered as alarms blared. Hulls cracked. Shields buckled. "It's active," Elias whispered. "The planet itself is fighting back." Above, the admiral's voice thundered, angrier and louder than ever. "All forces, push forward. Destroy their defenses before it's too late. Humanity must not retreat." But the soldiers on the ground no longer moved as one. The truth of the aliens' message still burned in their minds. Half raised their weapons against the aliens. Half lowered them. And some turned their weapons on each other. Sergeant Hale stood beside Elias, his rifle aimed not at the aliens, but at the humans who still obeyed blindly. "Orders won't save us now," Hale said, voice firm. "If we keep fighting, that thing will destroy everyone, humans and aliens alike." Private Lien clutched his weapon, torn between fear and courage. He thought of Earth, of his sister, of the laughter he longed to hear again. And then he thought of the alien children he had seen, their eyes wide with the same fear. For the first time, he realized the war was never about choosing sides, it was about choosing what it meant to be human. The ground split again. From the oceans rose colossal spires of light, pulsing in rhythm with the planet's heartbeat. Each pulse sent shockwaves through the fleet above, tearing ships apart. Dozens of human vessels were already breaking, their debris raining down into the atmosphere like fire. In the chaos, Elias opened a private channel to the fleet. "Admiral, listen to me. If we keep attacking, the weapon will wipe us out. We have to stop." The Admiral's reply was ice. "Cowardice. Treason. We finish what we started." And with those words, the Admiral ordered a full planetary bombardment. The sky became flame. Thousands of human weapons rained down upon the alien world. Cities burned, forests shattered, oceans boiled. The planet screamed, but in its scream, the ancient weapon surged brighter. On the ground, the soldiers made their choice. Enough! Elias roared. He turned to his troops, voice carrying above the fire. We are not executioners. We will not burn a world for lies. Dozens of soldiers lowered their rifles and stepped beside him. Hale joined him without hesitation. And then, to Elias's shock, alien warriors lowered their weapons as well. For the first time, humans and aliens stood side by side, not as enemies, but as survivors. But others did not. Loyalists, still obeying the admiral, raised their rifles and fired. Human fought human, comrades turning against each other in the ruins of a world they had been told to destroy. Smoke and screams filled the air. Above, the alien weapon released its first true strike. A beam of unimaginable power erupted from the oceans, slicing through space, cleaving the admiral's command ship in half. The Dominion, the pride of Earth's fleet, split apart in fire, vanishing into the void. Silence followed, broken only by static. The admiral's voice was gone. For a long, terrible moment, the battlefield froze. Soldiers lowered their weapons. Ships drifted aimlessly in orbit. The alien weapon pulsed one final time, as if warning that it could destroy everything if war continued. And then, it stopped. The ocean swallowed the light. The ground steadied. The weapon returned to its slumber. It had not destroyed them, it had simply reminded them of what it could do. Captain Elias stood among the ruins, breathing heavily. Around him, humans and aliens alike stared at one another, not with hatred, but with the heavy weight of survival. No one had won. No one had lost. All were broken. Private Lien looked to the sky, where fragments of ships still burned as they fell into the atmosphere. He thought again of Earth, of what stories would be told of this day. Would they call it victory? Would they call it shame? Or would they whisper the truth? Elias raised his voice one last time, his words carrying over the battlefield. Remember this day. Not as the day we conquered. Not as the day we won. But as the day humanity looked into the mirror, and saw what it truly was. The soldiers stood in silence. The aliens bowed their heads. And in the quiet that followed, the war ended, not with triumph, not with peace, but with the knowledge that nothing would ever be the same again. The day humanity attacked the alien homeworld had not ended in glory. It had ended in truth. And truth was heavier than any weapon.